because you described some of them as degenerate. The reason that they're degenerate is because when they're employed, they degenerate.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So they're games that
I survived. Don't you worry.
Violate their own principles as they play themselves out.
But there's nothing about a guy in fetish gear at a parade in front of children, for example, that's challenging the norms of a repressive sexual society that thinks that, it should be procreative, heterosexual sex only.
Nope. That's just challenging normal stuff that we all agree is normal stuff.
That's an excuse. It's pretext. What they're after is the norms that hold regular society together. And my argument is that the woke right does the same thing. They have a cult of transgression too. They sometimes call it being based, but that's a completely bad word for what they're trying to describe, because based should mean based in reality, although the origin of the term is slang for being free-based on cocaine.
That may be true. That's certainly not how people use the term based when they're using it unironically. But as with any slang, as it became something more popularized, the cringe level of people, it used to be a normal thing when somebody would say something cool that you agree with. That's like, oh shit, you're really hitting on something, based. But then, just like every other slang term, it's like, well, no, but you're just throwing this. That's not based. So, whether it has to do with the freebasing shit is irrelevant, because, again, language evolves and it means how people use it. But now there is like a desire to outbase all the other right-wing people. I'm so based, I'll call all the Jews terrible. I'm so based, I'll throw the N-word out just because I can.
Based in reality, although the origin of the term is slang for being free-based on cocaine. So they're out of their minds, right? It's just funny how this lines up. But what do?
Indeed. Help out our boy Sugar Daddy. Don't forget, guys, every single donation comes with a treat for Morty, and we want to hit that swole goal, so I am not so fucking puny. You gotta bulk me up.
Okay, so the far left has told us, you can't be racist. Racist is worse. Everybody's a racist. And of course, they completely made degenerate the concept of racism, the word racism, the accusation, the sky is racist, going for a hike is racist. But they aren't trying to reclaim and say, okay, no, wait. Racism's bad. We don't want to be racist, and nobody should be racist. And the left completely ruined it. So we need to reclaim the term and have this healthy societal norm about discrimination and bigotry.
That ain't what's going on from the woke right.
What they're doing instead is saying it's time for us to be a little bit racist. The left said, don't be racist, so we're going to be really racist. And we're going to do it in order to make, to own the libs, as they sometimes phrase the thing, right?
Yup. Anybody disagree with anything that he's saying right now? Because, again, we can get into the weeds of how specifically James Lindsay versus a Dave Smith is going to apply this term. But what we're talking about, it all fits.
To own the libs, as they sometimes phrase the thing, right? But really, it's to reject woke culture is the pretext. They're not acting racist or blaming Jews for everything going wrong in society, or, getting further and further into the racial expression or the white racial consciousness or whatever, or the white supremacy or even white nationalism, in order to challenge the left.
No.
They're doing it to challenge the center, the healthy core of society and its norms. Well, so that's the target.
That is the woke right. That is the woke right. We're going to hear that one more time. Because that's the way that those on the woke right would push back and be like, oh, you're just being like the leftist because no, I have decorum. I have a social standard that I don't want to, talk badly about people just because we have free speech. That's not why free speech exists. For you to be an edgelord and just piss off people because it's funny to you. That's some childish shit.
Getting further and further into the racial thing, right? But really, it's to reject woke culture is the pretext. They're
the pretext. So it's like, oh no, everything is so woke. Therefore, I must talk about sexuals. Everything is so woke. Therefore, I must say that gay people shouldn't be allowed to do anything in society. When that's not even really what you would, it doesn't seem like that's what you really actually believe. You are just saying it because you think it wins you cool points. Which again is some woke beta shit.
As they sometimes phrase the thing, right? But really it's to reject woke culture is the pretext. They're not acting racist or blaming Jews for everything going wrong in society, or, getting further and further into the racial expression or the white racial consciousness or whatever, the white supremacy or even white nationalism in order to challenge the left.
No.
They're doing it to challenge the center, the healthy core of society and its norms.
Well,
so that's the target. It's a cult of transgression, but they point in opposite directions. Left in some sense says, don't be racist. They say, do be racist. And this is, again, the communist fascist thing. We're going to liberate everybody. That's what the communists say. They come along, it screws everything up. And, there's all this oppression in society. We're going to liberate people from oppression and everything's going to be utopia. That's Marcuse in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Defined primarily by full sexual liberation.
Of course.
Well, that's always a part of it. But the whether it's, everything has to do with sexual liberation or not. The previous part, the point that James made is just spot on. You can see that there is a, so like, for example, I'm not somebody who is going to say, you can never say the N-word. That's the worst thing that you could possibly do. It's a word. But I'm also understanding that people don't like to hear that word. And so because I'm not a shithead, I'm not going to call, especially black people, that word just because I can't. I wouldn't want anybody to just, constantly be insulting me just because they can, even though I support their right to do so. You're still a shitty person if you do that. And that seems to be lost. Like, well, I could do it. Okay, yeah, you could do it, and you're a shitty, woke person. Shout out to Matthew King. Welcome to the party. Said the amount of anti-Semitism that has come to light based on Israel's treatment of Palestinians is insane. The idea that a New York Jew has any say in what happens over there is insane. They conflate religion and state, which drives me nuts.
Bingo.
Yep. I think most of us are pissed off with the relationship that our country has to Israel. But to connect that to, like you're saying, a New York Jew, like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're just saying things.
That's Marcuse in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Defined primarily by full sexual liberation.
You used this one yesterday.
Of course.
Right.
And
there is.
Hold on.
Sure.
It all goes to hell. And so then the right wakes up, woke, and says, actually, I think the oppression's what was holding us together. So we should do more of it. And they create a hierarchy in society that's very rigid, again, with that Führer principle from the fascists. Because Mussolini had his lighter version of it. Hitler concretized it for Nazi Germany in 1933, following Carl Schmitt's book, The Legal Basis for the Total State. They created the legal structure for this thing. But the idea was that there is a hierarchy that kept society on the rails, and we're going to go back to that hierarchy in extreme pastiche form. And there's a reward structure socially for the people in the club to push the envelope and attack those normal, everyday societal norms in the center. So again, same energy.
Yeah, it's boring to just say, okay, don't trans the kids, but like if you're an adult and you want to trans yourself, then, I honestly, genuinely don't care. And what, I might be happy that you are able to do these weird things that you want to do, because there might be some weird things that I want to do. Maybe not that weird, but either way, as long as it's not hurting me or anybody else, then somebody on the woke right could easily be like, oh, you're such a liberal. You're such a and semantic obfuscation. Around and around and around we go.